Call the meeting to order. Please rise for pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Aldermember Plackty,
Here.
Aldermember Paulson,
Here.
Aldermember Whitsitt,
Here.
Aldermember Starr,
Here.
Aldermember Ellard.
Here.
Alderman Carey, just walked in.
Just walk through the door.
All right. Welcome to all the visitors. Thanks for coming out. Good to see faces out there. We'll move on straight to the consent agenda.
Yes, the finance committee met today for about an hour, or a little bit over an hour. We looked at the April and May months for check registers and payment. We did notice that there's been 4 CIP items. Police car was one of them, and new truck for the water. Yeah. So we're using our CIPs in the new fiscal year, so that's good to see that we're getting some new things. And Bruce had asked our finance director, Kathy Thompson, to do a sales tax tracking report. And I'll just turn this over to Bruce because he knows more about the findings on this. So.
You'll notice in the finance committee paperwork, the graph that Kathy prepared. What I did was take the raw numbers for the monthly sales tax collections and took a 12-month total for the current 12-month period and the previous 12-month period, and compared a rolling 12-month total to see how our sales tax has been compared to each other, how they've been trending. I also did the same thing for a 24-month period because the economy hasn't been doing really great nationwide. Wanted to see how it's been doing for Odessa. Sadly, for the last 5 months, our sales tax has been going down. And we're at the point where, compared to the previous 12 months, we're actually in a negative position. The concern is we all know that inflation has gone up. So if sales tax has gone down to a negative compared to where it was 12 months ago, inflation has gone up. That obviously creates a problem that we need to deal with at some point, where we're going to collect the money to keep up at least with inflation, if not get ahead of it. So that's the reason for doing the graph.
Okay.
With that, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second by Alderman Starr. All in favor? 6-0. Carries. Mayor's report. Not a whole lot tonight. I do want to thank all those that went out to the rodeo and all those that worked so hard, the volunteers and everything to make that a success. I heard it was a really good time, maybe a little warm, but a nice breeze. So thanks to everybody that had input on that. I do have a special thank you to Shauna Davis and Darren Lamb for sitting with me to do a podcast on the streets of Odessa. And we spent about 40 minutes, 42 minutes, but I think it's a good one. I encourage everybody to listen to it. We had a pretty candid conversation about the streets in our town. So I encourage you to find that on your podcast player of choice. And we went to the MMO training. Myself and 5 of the board members went to the MMO training. Really worth it. Good topics, good discussion. Just had an enjoyable time there and worth the effort. I want to thank the board members that came to making the effort to get there. And with that, we'll go to the Alderman reports. Alderman Plackett.
So the 17th, we had planning and zoning meeting. The two new members, Shannon Dupree and Seth Howerton, were seated. I would have to say, I was very impressed with them, just like when they were on the police committee. They had lots of questions, which is good. It was the PUD plan was discussed in depth. And then we have there was a plat split that we will be discussing tonight. It's out at the, now it's called the little white.
North Park.
North Park,
North
yes.
Park.
It's, when you turn onto the, off of 40, you are on Wells, and it would be on the east side. And they asked Mr. Hopper what he intended to do, and he said his plans were to put up a building for sports training. And they approved and recommended it for approval.
Very good. Thank you for that. Anything further?
That's it.
All right, Alderman Kerrigan.
First, apologize for my tardiness. We had a really good meeting on 6/11 with the Ward 3 community meeting. Bruce and myself, we had a couple people attended. Had a good discussion about some of the I-70 interchange things that we did know, some things that were speculated. I know that the city and MoDOT are still trying to figure out what's happening there. A few discussions about special permitting processes, farmers market type topics, price of utilities, community development permitting, things like that. It was a good discussion. I invite anybody that wants to come and meet with some of those. It's specifically for Ward 3, but we open it up to the community. It's a chance to talk to some aldermen and have a candid conversation. We meet every month for that, every second Wednesday at 7 o'clock here. Recently, I fielded a lot of concerned citizens about some of the topics we'll talk about tonight, so we'll talk more about it. And then one other concern that we have, and I don't know where to go with it, is some of the lighting that we have on advanced industries over here that we replotted, allowed them to put up some things there. I don't know if anybody's noticed it at night, but it lights up 2 blocks. I don't know what we can or can't do about that, but the people in the area are not very excited. I can see it from my backyard, and I'm 2 blocks away, and it lights up my backyard. So it's great for the business. They can see everything, but so can everyone else. So there's some concerns about it. I don't think anybody has made official complaints to the city about it. And I don't know if there's anything the city can even do about it. But it is very bright all night long. So I bring that up. Other than that, I think we're doing good.
All right, Alderman Paulson.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Alderwoman Elliott.
I would just like to reiterate 2 things. First, the training session that we did in Columbia was great. Thank you very much. I'm glad that we all went. We had a great time, a lot of good discussion. Secondly, I did go to the rodeo, and thank you. Kathy is very much a part of that, and it was well done. We had a great time. Third, I did sit in on the planning and zoning meeting, and I would like to commend Shauna and the board for how much effort and time they spent almost line by line going over this PUD that's coming back to us. So that's all I have.
It's good to have that.
They did a great job, and Shauna really led that well. It was great. Right.
It's good to have that back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so that's all I have tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Alderwoman Stark.
The rodeo was hot, but we had a good breeze.
The wind blew.
Yeah, it
It
wasn't bad.
did, yeah.
I had to corner Kathy a time or 2 to complain, but
You and,
she handled me well. But that's all I
I need to know your secret.
got.
I will never tell my secrets.
And Alderman Whitson.
I did not attend the rodeo, but I was glad Kathy survived it. I would like to request, if possible, if we could get additional time between getting the agenda and the meeting, so that we can have more time to research things on the agenda before the meeting. One thing I like to do, if you haven't guessed by now, is to research the issues. I do like to talk to community members to see their feelings about the issues, and I'm sure the community members like to know what's on the agenda so they can give it some thought. So I think we got, there was a lot going on, but I think we got tonight's agenda at 5:30 on Friday. But maybe if we can get just even one more day in between getting the agenda and the meeting, that would be great. In addition to our third ward meeting, I have an open door policy. Anyone in the community, doesn't matter what ward they're in, they can come talk to me at any time at the office. Had someone talk to me about street parking and traffic on Johnson Drive. Had a request again to broadcast and record planning and zoning meetings. I know Shauna tried to do that at one time to broadcast it. Had an inquiry why socket was buried in the front yards instead of the backyards where Brightspeed had just buried their cable. I think we had a great purchasing or a great financial board meeting tonight. Really happy with the direction that's going. That's all I have.
Great. And we'll get those agendas out a little soon. We did have Juneteenth this week, so.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I've been getting it on Thursday, so, I mean, I think normally, I think we had that day off, so we usually get it a day. Karen, we've been getting your agenda on
It had
Thursday.
been Fridays.
Well, yeah, since I came back from vacation, I was trying to, yeah.
Yeah.
We usually get it Thursdays. When I was on the board, I remember we got it on Fridays, almost.
Yeah.
But we've
consistently.
been getting it.
But we've been getting it on Thursdays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, thank you.
And you've been going a while.
I have.
So things should be back in this.
Yeah, you better believe it.
Okay, very good. Shauna's not here tonight. Are you filling in for the city administrator report?
You are so lucky tonight.
Oh,
I assure you, this will not be as eloquent or as thorough as Shauna does, but I told her we would wing it the best we could. So, from an administration standpoint, our accounts payable clerk is going to be leaving us Fridays from last day. In the future, we're gonna kind of readjust that position and the utility clerk position to where they're both completely cross-trained. So we have a little better coverage. The goal is to improve our customer service in those position areas. From the finance side, I still continue to review policies and work on process improvement. We're looking through the budget and that analysis. We have 2 new reserve police officers that we're in the process of onboarding. This is not level, so bear with me. Thomas Edge, and then Dylan Radigan, of course, resigned as a full-time officer, and he is now going to be one of our reserves. We're thrilled to have him back. Fireworks, the shooting hours will be July 3rd, 4th, and 5th. On the 3rd, they will be 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then on Friday night and Saturday night, it will go until 12 p.m. both nights. The city fireworks display will be July 3rd. We'll open at 5. Fireworks will go off at dusk. Anyone who would like to volunteer to assist us with that evening, we are definitely accepting volunteers to help facilitate that. We have had 34 new business licenses, 62 renewals. So the business license process is going a little smoother than it was perhaps a month ago. Working out some bugs there. Liquor licenses will be due at the end of this month as well. Staff, all of the department leaders and city administrator met to discuss the strategic plan, the 6 key priority areas that you have defined, and what the action steps and measurement and performance measures will be. We had a really great discussion. I thought it was a really productive meeting. We got through about half of it, so we're going to meet again next week and pick up, and then we'll kind of fine tune those and bring them back to you. October 1st, we will do a flu and COVID vaccine for employees. RSVP to Karen if you're interested in that. We are working on, we've received the bids for the GIS project, for the wage study, and the Public Works building bid should go out this week. So we're working on that. The electric contractor and engineering bid will go out in July. So staying on top of that. Karen said add PCs on website, and I don't know what that meant.
Oh, so the planning commission is now on the YouTube website,
Oh, okay.
and so you can watch the meeting, the last meeting on the 16th, 17th. So you can watch all of that now.
Very good.
From the Parks Department, they played a major role. Actually, all the city departments did. I'm gonna caveat off just a moment and thank everyone, from a city standpoint that helped with the rodeo. Everybody had a piece to play, and I appreciate that. We did turn the ball field lights on each night, and that really helped people getting back to their cars. And the park said that the trash was much better this year because they could actually see where the trash cans were. So that was a great solution for us as well. Pool heat's bringing in lots of people to swim. The slide pad has been installed, seems to be working well. Had the last week for baseball and softball for the older kids. There's 2 weeks of T-ball left, but by the 4th of July, everything will be finished. Lindsay attended her first Region F solid waste management meeting, and they will be looking at doing a cleanup in Odessa this fall that will be funded through them. So I know in the spring we had hoped for another opportunity to clean up our town. Looks like we're going to have that. Soccer signups will be in July. Water aerobics start tomorrow. So anybody that wants to be at the pool at 8 a.m. tomorrow, on Tuesdays and Fridays, you can join for water aerobics. And the pool parties, there's a couple of evenings that's still available, but they've pretty much booked out for the whole summer. So that's going very well as well. Wastewater, normal operations and maintenance, they have fixed the tractor that was broken down. So they are ready, there's a map here, sorry, to clear the 90 acres to start taking soil samples. The DNR requires soil samples every 5 years. So they will be doing that soon. The jetter truck arrived, it's in service, and they absolutely love it. So thanks for adding that to the CIP this year. One of the other things that was in this year's CIP was a control panel at the Northwest plant. Timing is everything, it failed. And so they have been operating the plant manually. The new panel will be installed on July 2nd and 3rd. So they really planned that one well for end of life and replacement. So that's good. Water and street road work, they're continuing that. Milling this week, paving next week. The mill machine did break down, but it has been repaired now. There'll be some curb replacement on Hereford Court and Opera House Lane within the next couple of weeks. The drain is fixed in the lime silo. They have had 3 water leaks in the last 2 weeks, one yesterday, one today, one last weekend. The good news is we had our first Doppler incidents over the weekend. We had an electrical and a water issue. Both Doppler worked great. We're going to do a follow-up training with our staff on Wednesday. Now that they've used it once, they do have some questions, and we're going to meet with the Doppler folks and get those resolved. And that's going to go well. And then they're going to pull the samples so they can get the lagoon samples so we can get that bid out to get it cleaned up this fall as well. A common theme amongst all of our public works departments right now is locates. They're doing an excessive amount of locates, so a lot of their time is being spent doing that. The electric department has worked some on the pole replacement project. They're working on some underground installation at First and Russell. We'll be boring south there. And then there's another one in Centennial Hills where they're switching a transformer to a new primary line. That'll be happening in the next couple of weeks. They also sprayed the substation for vegetation issues. Police have a lot of training going on. They're staying on their toes with that. Chief Thompson will be out tomorrow and Wednesday for a public information officer training. They are reaching out to the community. They have been doing a reading at the library program that's been really effective, and it's good to see the kids interacting with the officers. And they also have their Touch a Truck program coming up. Criminals are not slowing down for the summer heat. They're very busy. Seems to have picked up a little bit. So they just remind everyone to always have their heightened security, lock your vehicles, be cautious of your surroundings, all of those things. The last thing I have to report, I hope you already know this, but Representative Thompson is having a meet and greet tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the library. Everyone's invited to attend that.
Thank you, Kathy. All right. Moving on to public comments. Tonight we have Brenda Oliver and Kathy Thompson want to speak about the MoDOT bridge signage. So, Brenda, you want to be first?
I can.
Okay.
I am fulfilling the responsibility given me by the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors to reiterate that their interest and passion about this decision with the signage on the new I-70 overpass has not waned. We feel like it's such a critical part of trying to creating more interest in developing that area, the corridor of what's going to be the new ramps and everything. It's just going to tie it together. We just wanted to let the board know that we do still want to participate with you in the funding for that, and encourage you to look at this in the long range binoculars that this is going to be there for the next 75 years until they replace that bridge again. And once it's up, we can't ever go back and add it. So encourage you to be forward thinking and looking, just like the Chamber of Commerce tries to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brenda.
I'm going to put on my chamber hat for just a minute and speak in support of what Brenda said as well. How I perceive these bridges and this entire process is we're going to have all of these bridges going down I-70 that have been replaced. And we're going to see these labels. We're going to see Blue Springs, Spring Valley, Oak Grove, Main City, hopefully Odessa, Higginsville, Concordia. There's bridges in between. So the M&O bridge, the H bridge, they're not going to have any labeling. To me, those are the bridges that are going nowhere. So if I'm traveling down the highway, I'm from another state, or I just am a frequent visitor here, I want to get off on one of the bridges that goes someplace. And as a representative of the chamber, I would encourage you to not let Odessa be the bridge that goes nowhere.
Thank you, Kathy. Did you get it?
Oh, Lou.
Sorry.
Okay. On to new business. I love when we get to recognize people and their accomplishments. Recognition of Court Clerk Jennifer LeBlanc for being appointed to the Missouri Association of Court Administration, MCAC, Executive Board as the Region 7 Director. Tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, there's a typo, it should be MACA, but it's the Missouri Association for Court Administration. So it's a statewide organization, and the goal is to help train the people who work the courts, especially the municipal courts, and that would be the court clerks, also the prosecuting attorney clerks. And they put on trainings. We have also, MACA is statewide, but there's regions, there's 9 regions around the state. Each region has a director to kind of help with training in that region, to kind of stay in touch with the different courts, answer questions. So at our last spring conference, I was elected to be the Region 7 director. Region 7 is very wide. We go from just this side of Kansas City to just this side of St. Louis. So it's like this whole swath kind of in the middle. It goes Lafayette County and then it ends at, gosh, what is that county? It's right just this side. It's like Warrenton or,
St. Charles?
it's just this side of St. Charles. Anyway, it's a pretty big group. So today actually I was on the phone and I called several of the courts that we don't hear from on a regular basis and just introduced myself and asked if they wanted some information on our upcoming training. I did schedule our next training session, so that's the first time I've done that. I got a couple of municipal judges, including Judge Scarborough, to do a presentation on etiquette in the courtroom and procedures and policies, like just to be, how to handle yourself in the courtroom, basically. And I told them to be funny because it's a serious topic and I don't want to lose the crowd, so I just throw a few jokes in. But anyway, so I'm looking forward to that. We're actually holding that in Salem County this time. We try to, because it's such a big group, we try to move it at different places so different people can come. And so this time we are kind of on this side of the state, and we're going to do it in Marshall, Missouri. And so that's coming up in August. And other than that, I'm just trying to run a good court and also trying to be available for other people. I've done the court since 2018. That's definitely not the longest court, but I have, done it for a few years, so I feel like I can help people a little bit and I can find answers if I don't have them. So that's kind of the whole point of the region directors.
Thank you. Very well done.
All right, moving on to the special event application. This is for dates Thursday, July 31st through August 3rd, 2025, 9 a.m. to 9, should be p.m. Request the annual VFW beer garden to run Thursday, July 31st through Saturday, August 2nd, 2025. Also, an annual cornhole tournament will be on site. You have someone to speak to that?
No,
Okay.
Here, it's the same
it's the
spot.
same everything.
Same everything.
Yep.
Railroad Park
Yep.
area.
All right, any discussion? No discussion? All right, take a motion to approve the special event application.
I'll make a motion to approve the special event application for the VFW Beer Garden for the Public Jumpers Day.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor? 6-0, the special event application is approved. Now we have a presentation of the Parks 2024 annual report by Jen and Brenda. Come on up.
Good evening. We've had another busy year. We've broken it down kind of by areas just to make it a little more streamlined. So for our aquatic center this year, we've replaced the family slide landing, that big pad under that big slide. It took a few attempts, but it is now installed and seems to be working well. We've replaced the slide pump and motor. We've replaced the wood fencing around the pump room. And thanks to our street department, we relined the parking lot. At Dyer Park, they have replaced the yellow safety fencing cap on all the softball and baseball fields, replaced the wind screens in the outfields of the softball and baseball fields, replaced the wind screens in the dugouts of the softball and baseball field, installed cameras at Lions Pavilion, pickleball courts, and basketball courts. We were having some crime issues, so some cameras were necessary in those areas to help kind of avoid that and catch those doing it. We've resealed and repainted the basketball courts, installed pickleball lights, thanks to Troy and the electric department for that. Installed the sidewalk at the pickleball courts. Partners for Parks did that for us this year. At Chestnut Memorial Park, we resealed and repainted the basketball court. And then Partners for Parks installed the shade structures over the playground and the benches over the basketball courts. We are adding mulch to all the neighborhood parks. A huge thank you to the Odessa Garden Club for all of the work they do to help make everything beautiful. They maintain the flower beds here at Dyer Park, and they look amazing, as well as Railroad Park, which just looks gorgeous. So thank you guys for that. It's much appreciated. Youth activities, again, soccer, we've had over 400 participants for the third year in a row, so it is definitely a huge sport. I'm gonna plug Odessa High School soccer, so come out, support those kids this fall. Unfortunately, there's not very many in the stands, so we would love to see more out there. For as many youth as we see participating, it's not quite represented at the games, so it's a good time, they're fun matches, you know.
Can I ask do they have a specific night that they have those?
Typically, it's posted online already, but they're typically Tuesdays and Thursdays. So some home, some away, but we typically play Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm gonna come back to some of that. Fall soccer signups start July 14th, and they'll run through August 10th. For that, you have to be 3 by August 1st to participate. So even those littles can participate in that. They run three years through 8th grade, so a wide range of kids. Youth volleyball signups start August 4th and will run through the 24th. Those are for grades 3rd through 6th. Our aquatic center, we're doing swim lessons all summer long. They run in 2-week sessions. Pool parties, like was mentioned. Weekends are booked except for the second party of the night, so that later party. We do still have weeknights available though, so those still have a few of those left. The pool closes Sunday, August 17th, and it was already mentioned water aerobics is starting. They'll run Tuesdays and Fridays from 8 to 8:45 a.m. We will do our annual walkthrough every year. We were slated to do that last Wednesday, but that late rain took us out, so we are actually going to do that tomorrow evening, and that's where we will walk through all of the parks, make our notes. Anything that can be repaired in this budget will be repaired this year, and then we'll make the list for bigger repairs to budget for next year. So we'll have that next week. Very good. Or tomorrow. Any questions?
I have one question, and this is kind of a garden club. At Chestnut Park, there's a spot out there that we've been talking about maybe planting. Is there water out there?
There's not.
Okay, that's their issue.
Correct. We talked about that. Yeah, there's no water out there. That's a problem.
Thank you.
So, okay. Anything else? Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Shannon.
And thanks, Lindsay, for
All right, moving on to bill number 2025-13. Introduction and readings of bill number 2025-13, approving Dow Industrial Lots 1 and 2, replat of Tract A, North Park Commercial Center, a subdivision in Odessa, Lafayette County, Missouri. I would take a motion to approve the first reading of the bill.
I make a motion to approve the first reading of bill number 2025-13, the Dow Industrial Lots 1 and 2, replat of Tract Commercial Center.
I have a motion and a second by Alderman Kerrigan. All in favor? 6-0. Discussion. No discussion.
not specifically for this one, but I think we also, I don't know if anybody else thinks about this. The comment I made earlier about, we replotted over here for advance.
Right.
And it's a wonderful thing, but something I didn't think about at the time was that lighting issue where we had a commercial place going right next to residential. And this is not the case here, but I think we just, as a reminder, we need to be cognizant of that when we do stuff like this. We inadvertently can cause some of those concerns to some of the surrounding areas, even though the use is sufficient and nice, but not a specific concern on this one, because it's in the full commercial zone.
It is zone currently C3 commercial 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's good.
All right, it's good to know. Any other input? Discussion? No? Okay. And I'll take a motion to approve the second reading of bill number 2025-13, Dow Industrial Lots 1 and 2, replat of Tract A, North Park Commercial Center.
I'll make a motion that we approve the second reading and approve the bill as an ordinance for the Dow Industrial Lots 1 and 2, replat of Tract A, North Park Commercial Center.
Good job.
Jesus.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Alderwoman Starr.
Yeah.
All right. It's coming to me. Roll call.
Aldermember Plackey,
Yes.
Witsit,
Yes.
Polson,
Yes.
Eller,
Yes.
Kerrigan,
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
Motion carried, given ordinance number 3153.
All right, now the presentation by Chief Thompson on the cloud permit code enforcement public platform.
I'll go over here, I'll do my best. Not using my computer.
Oh,
Oh.
you want to use mine?
Nope. Make sure that's still recording. Okay, my computer's doing the live cast for today, so I'm gonna try to wing this. If you guys have your laptops open, or something that can connect to the internet, and you go to the City of Odessa website, that's cityofodessamo.com. More of a little interactive approach here to kind of teach you how easy this software is to use. When you guys kind of get there, what you'll see on the upper left side of that website are departments. And if you hover over that, a menu will drop down, and as you go down that menu, you will see code enforcement has its own section. And it'll take you to the codes enforcement section. Now, it's very simple looking. We wanted to keep it simple to try and not confuse folks. But what you'll see here are some links. Typically the pictures, some will click on pictures, some will click on the hyperlinks. If you click on the file a code report picture, it's the first picture in that, it will take you to an off cloud permit website. A separate tab will open. This is what the public will see. And this is a live database. These are actual code complaints. As you scroll down, you see the live map of Odessa. You can zoom in on a property. If you see the number 1, it tells you that there's one property in that area where there's a code violation that's currently active. If you see a 3 and you zoom in on it, that means there are 3 in that area. If you pick one, and in my slides that were in the that were emailed on Friday, I selected the police department as a potential code violation. But you can click. What you'll see is limited information. Obviously, my codes officer and myself see more information on the backside of the system, but you will see what type of code violation is at that address. Now, this will only show you active violations. If the individual or the property owner has remediated and corrected the problem, you will not see closed violations. We see all of them on our side, so we can see historical information. The user end will only see active cases, and that typically will show people whether or not we have an active case on that property. And if we do not, and they feel there are code violations, what the individual can do is use the same portal to actually file the complaint with my department. There are 2 ways to file that. You would find the property on the map. You would select that property, and it does bring up limited GIS information that is pulled from Lafayette County's GIS system. It's a public database, and you can go on Lafayette County's website and see the full information if the individual wants to. But if you select on the property, and I'm kind of following along with Alderman Polson here. I'm looking over your shoulders a little bit, but you're good. But if you select the property, now I'll remind you, this is a live database. So if you go through the full process, my codes officer might get 6 complaints tonight, on that property.
Okay.
But what I'll say is
Make sure it's the mayor's property.
you would select at the top of that graph, it gives you a list of the type of violation. Property maintenance, I think there's a list there. You can see the bubbles. You would select the type of violation, you would select the property, and then in that list to the bottom right of the screen would be create case. The individual can, it is not required, they can provide their information in that section of the complaint. If they want us to reply to them about the status of that complaint, they have to put in an email address that we can communicate with them, but it is not required. Once they select the type of violation, it gets sent to us. Now, that doesn't mean it's an active case. What that means is my code officer simply goes out and verifies whether it's an actual violation or not. If it is not a violation, she closes that out and nobody even sees it on the other end. But if it is a violation, she would mark it as an active and we would start the process of remediating that code violation. It could be from tall weeds and grass all the way to an abandoned structure, hazard structure, or something like that. So that's a very simple rundown of how the cloud permit works. On our end, we definitely have, on the backside, it has a little more bells and whistles that allows us to track, schedule inspections, follow up on inspections, insert photographs if there are any pictures. I do think that this does allow you to insert photograph, but you would have to insert that through putting your information in there. So if you just simply wanted more of an anonymous type of complaint, then you would not put that information in there. And again, my codes officer has to verify it. It's not a legitimate complaint. It doesn't go on this graph. Any questions about that? Yes,
Some of that detail you were just saying the public can't see.
They won't see any of they would just see, if it is a legitimate complaint and it's tall weeds and grass, then all it will say is this address, tall weeds and grass.
Right.
That way it kind of cuts down on repetitive complaints for the same property,
Right.
That then my codes officer has to go out and check 5 times on the same tall weeds and grass when she certified it one time. Then an individual can see, okay, they've already got tall weeds and grass on that. We're already working through that.
Very good.
Any other questions about cloud permit?
It's very easy to do.
This part of the database is very easy. Now, if you click back to the tab, the first tab on the website, the city website tab, and you scroll down just a little bit further, we put links for MuniCode. That is where the City of Odessa municipal code is stored. It's a database that you can search. But right next to that is ICC. Back in 2017, the City of Odessa adopted the 2012 International Property Maintenance Code. And there are listed what my property maintenance codes officer uses is listed here on their website. So they can be searched by the individual. It can be researched and printed off if they choose to do that. So they can see exactly what the law says and that we're attempting to enforce on that property. So that's for you guys to study at another time, but I'll answer any questions if you have any.
I'm always
Sure, you're fine. No worries.
So how are we gonna get the word out about this? Are we putting it in the newsletter that this is
Yes,
available on the
there will be,
website?
when Shauna returns from her vacation, I believe there'll be some public information campaign that's pushed out. We would, I believe that the newspaper along with Facebook or some other social media platform will be utilized. And on the front page of that website, I know I showed you how to get to it. On the very front page of the website, typically they have kind of hot button topic items down there, and we'll add that as a recent one so that they'll see that as soon as they get on there. But yes, using the newsletter and other sources to make sure that the public's fully aware of how they can go file this is important.
Very good. And of course, when they come to us, we can send them there too.
Absolutely. You can send them to the website to file a complaint, absolutely.
Very good.
And it works on any device, their cell phone, tablet, or their laptop. Yeah. Or they can, old-fashioned way, they can always call down. We always take reports over complaints over the phone too, so.
I'm not very good at this and I did it, so.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, next up, recommendation and appointment of Derek Barker for the appointment to the Parks and Recreation Board. Mr. Barker will replace Gerald Gittinger with a term ending June 2027. I'd like to thank Mr. Gittinger for his time on that board. I would take a motion to approve the recommendation appointment of Derek Barker to the Parks and Rec Board.
I make a motion to approve the recommendation of Derek Barker to the Parks and Rec Board.
A motion and a second. All in favor? 6-0. Derek Barker is now a member of the.
Mayor, I'd like to also mention there is a typo in the name of Mr. Derek Barker, and he is here tonight as well.
Oh,
So
there you are.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I hardly see you back there. All right, very good. We appreciate you stepping up to the board. And what is the typo?
It's actually spelled DERICK, correct?
Okay,
Well, he looks very
we'll correct
qualified.
that.
Yes,
Good.
I got the application today.
You're still pronounced Derek, right?
Yes, it is, yes.
You got it right. You got it right on this, so.
Yes,
Okay.
got right on that.
All right, but we are pleased to have you on board. Thank you for serving, and you are in capable hands now of Lindsay and Jana. So, thank you so much. All right. Now, here we go. Motion to approve or deny of option 1, 2, or 3 of the purchase approval for the improved I-70 interchange bridge lettering. We'll just start out with discussion.
While she's pulling that up, I can start discussion on it. I know we talked at length about this in the past. We didn't commit to anything until now, we commit.
Now's the time.
I talked to a lot of people about it in the past. When I saw it came up on here, I sent out a bunch of messages reaching out to the public. Because I myself am torn. I hear what the Chamber of Commerce says. I see that. I understand that could be a concern. It's not a guarantee, but if you don't have it, you won't know. It is difficult to have this put on after the fact. It can be, but it's much more expensive. And it takes a lot more hoops to go through. So I do understand that. But what it really boils down to me is what the community wants for their community. I specifically talked to probably 40 people of just anybody I knew that I could talk to say, what do you want us to do? There were 2 that said, yeah, this is a good thing. And there were 38 that said, no, we would rather have that money go to streets or something else. If we have the money to spend on a sign, then we should have the money to put more streets or other things like that. So I just want to share that with the board. That's the feedback I got from members of the community that I spoke to. So.
Anybody else?
Can we talk about the 3 options?
We need to, yes.
Right, and then to piggyback on what you just said, I have talked to several people. I don't have a count. I don't know how many up there. Mainly businesses, chamber, of course, and so I could probably match that. You know, I don't know if it's 40, but I'm just going to say there is more than 2 people that support this in my discussion. The other thing that Shauna has put in here that is extremely important, I think, for us to consider is that we do have money in a budget for economic development. And you may think that your people or whoever you talk to think that this money should go towards streets or something, but we actually have set money aside that I consider this name on these bridges as being part of economic development, especially when you talk to Chamber of Commerce and some of the other, it's like Kathy said, it's a bridge that goes somewhere, and this is Odessa. So we have $87,000 sitting there in that account that we have budgeted for and not used, that is earmarked in our budget for economic development and not streets. So before we discuss the 3 options, I just want to say.
Okay.
What is the form liner?
Okay, that's basically a concrete stamp.
Okay, that's the stamp.
That's the stamp.
That would mean it
So-
would look like
It would look like
brick.
bricks. Yeah.
Okay.
So option 1 would have the concrete stamp on both sides of the lettering.
Mhm.
So you'd have Odessa and you'd have the concrete stamp. Option 2 would have it on one side.
You're saying-
Option
are you
3
saying
would,
both sides of the bridge?
No. Yes. Option 1 would have it on all of them, all bridges, on 2 sides of each bridge.
So there's 4.
So there's 4 of those, okay? Option 2 would just have it on the side that's got the letters on it. The other side wouldn't have any stamping. Option 3 says Odessa on a bridge
With no stamp.
with no stamp,
Which Oak Grove has, there's a stamp.
yes.
So, but we don't have to necessarily put a stamp on. If we just lettering. So that's the three options. Can I voice I'm still.
Yes.
You have the con.
I think it would be kind of silly to put it on all four sides. There, in the way Odessa is set up, I mean, if you're coming from St. Louis headed to Kansas City, I think that side needs to say Odessa. And I think if you're coming from Kansas City to St. Louis, I think that side needs to see Odessa. The two inside, of those bridges, in my opinion, do not need Odessa on them. So option one it would be out for me. So I guess option 2 or 3, then the discussion would be, do you want the, the brick looking on there or just the name?
Well, let me
Is that right?
clarify. No, the lettering is only going to be on westbound Johnson Drive, eastbound 131.
Okay.
Okay, you're only going to have lettering on 2 with any of these options.
Oh, okay.
Okay, option 1, you're going to have stamped concrete on all 4 sides of the
Oh,
bridges.
Okay,
On option 2, you would have stamped concrete on the side that's got the lettering,
okay.
And option 1 is just lettering.
just lettering.
Which is the 35,200. Okay.
Alderman Woodson.
I kind of come in between the two of them. And I probably have more people against the letter than for the letter. Okay? The $85,000, once you change budget years, that money goes into reserves. That's not there to spend for the same purpose in future years. I budgeted to buy a 1969 El Camino for years, and I wish I had that money there that my wife would let me spend to buy one now, because I'd love to have it. But that money's just there for other purposes. What do we have in our reserve? Do we have enough money to spend $85,000 on something? I don't know. That money is there for other purposes. We need to spend money on sidewalks and a lot of other things. I don't know if we have enough money there to spend it. I would be in favor, even though most of the people I talk to would not be in favor of the $35,000. Chamber's going to give us $10,000 of it, so we've got $25,000 left to spend for 75 years. So what is that? Divide that up, 3,000 a year, less than that.
Less than that.
Very, very little amount amortized over 75 years. We're just having to pay it up front. We're buying an asset that has a 75-year life. I think that would be well worth it.
$333 a year.
I'm sorry.
$333 a year.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
And I think if we decide not to, and Higginsville, and Grain Valley, and Oak Grove, Bay City, I think we would regret it. Okay.
Green Valley, the way their bridge is, you can't.
They don't have it on theirs?
No, because their bridge doesn't, they don't have an overpass.
Oh, yeah.
It is stamped, but there's no name on it.
Okay.
Because it's an underpass.
Sure.
I would go same with Blue Springs. The only overpass is Woods Chapel. Yeah.
And Oak Grove.
I know we have Oak Grove. And Bates, I don't know what Bates City's doing, but we have Bates Cities.
They're putting, I think they approved it. So, I mean, it's what I heard when we first started talking about it.
And as far as having money in reserves, it's good that we do. Here's then where, as a board, whatever we decide will be wrong, because we have lots of things that need attention. So if we choose this over something else, or choose something else over this, here we are.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's the same dilemma I have.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Well,
I think we should put the name on the bridge. I think we should.
So you think we should do it stamped or just letters?
I personally am for the stamped on the one side that the word is on.
So the sides
So
that
that's
are,
option 2 for 50.
Yes.
so the
Yes.
sides that the name's not on,
No,
I mean, would that look dumb?
No.
I mean, would it look not,
You're too late to get off the highway at that point. anyway.
well, that's true.
honestly, you're too late to get off the highway if you've seen it anyways.
That's right.
So I would argue, and this is just,
But when you come back,
yeah, so you would see it and you know that that's where Odessa is. But if you've seen that, you're too late to get off at Odessa, period. So that argument I don't think is valid, but it does give you
I
notoriety
can
to
see
know,
pretty far.
it does give you notoriety for the next time coming through. So you do have that.
Alderman
We're
Miller.
at 2 bridges, right? Okay, so you're not past.
But by the time you get to the first bridge going east,
You have
you
one
can see
option.
it.
to get off.
That's the only option you've got to get off. That's the only option you're gonna have to get off. So by the time you get to Johnson Drive, it's too late.
Alderman Miller.
Since we are zeroing in on economic development is why we want to do this, do you mind if I ask someone from Chamber, either Kathy or maybe even Brenda? It really doesn't matter if it's stamped brick on there, right? It's just really the name. That economic development really just wants the name Odessa on there, correct? For what you guys are wanting to give your $10,000. You don't care whether it's stamped.
I don't think that the board of directors would withdraw their offer of payment because you chose painted instead of stamped. However, us in the audience are pretty uninformed because we don't see what the cost is.
Right.
What's the difference between painted and the molded concrete?
The difference in the pricing is basically a concrete stamp
Like Oak Grove.
on the rest of the bridge. The letters are gonna be just like the Oak Grove letters are. But then what's the rest of the bridge going to look like is what the differential is.
Alderman Paulson.
So, this is my opinion. Kind of did the math on number 2, where we could have the wording and form liner on the 2 barrier walls. It's $560 some dollars a year, I think, if I did the math right. If you divide it out over the time period. And I would like to think that the wording on the bridge, we could recoup $500 and some dollars a year from extra traffic and spending, if you look at it in an economic.
Without argument.
That's option 2
That's your option.
with it stamped. I agree. Can I make a motion?
Are we ready? Any further discussion? All right. So consensus I've heard is option 2. So you're going to motion to approve option 2?
50, let me get back here, Carla. How much? Maybe Carla, you get the option. I can't find it. What was the price?
Bruce, say that again, please.
It's an extra $18,520.
To stamp it. I don't know where it went. 53,720. So I making a motion that we approve option number 2 at $53,720 with Chamber of Commerce donating $10,000 to that cost.
I have a motion. Do I have a second for option 2?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I believe Alderman Paulson was the second. All in favor? 5. All opposed? 1. 5-1. Motion carries for option 2 for the bridge signage. All right. Next, we have discussion. The Board of Aldermen meeting procedures / public comment. No, let Karen speak to this.
Um,
You brought some stuff up. Is this one you want to talk about that, or is this specifically for public comments?
Basically, this is what I have come up with that I would like for you to take a look at. There is a short version and a long version of meeting procedures. I'd like for you to take a look at that and send me your comments. And then I can work on a resolution that you could adopt
Okay.
for meeting
And
procedures.
As part of this, I want to piggyback onto it. You know, we were talking earlier about public comments being limited to a certain time frame. And I think since people come up with public comments and they address the board should be the one to determine time limits.
Correct.
So
I suggested 5 minutes, but you can do whatever, you know.
So let's add that into the discussion as
So
well.
say that again. So
Okay.
the board decides how many?
The board should be the one who decides how long people can, have
And what
public
do we do to
comments.
say,
in my
you're
opinion.
done?
No, it's a time, it's
No,
time.
You'll have it.
It's
It'll be on the
timed.
timer.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, and if the board should say, no, we want to hear more, keep speaking, that's okay too,
okay.
okay? But we need to have some parameters set for public comments, and that suggestion to have the board come up with the time was actually suggested by Alderman Whitsitt, and I concur with him 100%. They're speaking at all of this, but
Are you saying that some things that need to be discussed would take longer and some might be shorter?
could be, or if they haven't had enough time and they ask for request more time, then they could have, with the general consensus of the board, they could go on. Alderman Stark.
I've been in a lot of these meetings in 8 years. I would give them 3 minutes, and then if they have more to say and we want to hear it, say, okay. Some of them, they're up there way too long.
Would 5 minutes be okay, like Karen's got it written? Or you want to push it back to?
I would say 3 minutes, and then if they need 5, we can decide whether we want to give it to them. That's,
What's the consensus of the board?
that's
3, 4,
my-
5?
that's my vote.
Okay.
I have no problem with 5, but you know.
I mean, it's up to everybody.
But I like the idea of us being able to.
So if you did 3, then we could always extend it if we wanted.
If they need it.
And who's gonna like time off it?
Me.
Okay.
I will buy a timer and set it
Yeah.
down to bank.
We have legal counsel.
And you're right, it is absolutely your choice, but I would tell you that the comment that was made up, if you give them 3 minutes, then if you want to give them more time, that's fine. But if you give them 5 minutes and 2 minutes in, you don't want to hear what they have to say, you can't stop them from talking.
Correct.
So think about it this way, if 10 people sign up to talk on something and you give them 5 minutes, that adds 50 minutes to your time of your meeting. Because if they all want to take up the time. If you give them 3 minutes, then they get 30 minutes, and then you can always give them more time. Well, in theory, other people could say that, but what you can't do is shut down unpopular speakers.
Bruce?
Can you ask them if they want to speak on the same subject to pick a single person? You can try and do that, but people that if you're here to hear good things, people will be happy to do that. If people are here to complain about something, most people believe that their particular view of it is just as valid as the next person's and different, and they may have a point about that. If someone's, just like with vexatious sunshine law requests, if their point is to punish you, and the only way they know how to do that by getting 50 people to show up and talk for the maximum amount of time to show you how displeased they are allowed to do that, and that is a treasured part of our American democratic experience. So you need to pick these rules before Monopoly game starts, or else you're suffering with the rules.
This topic was discussed when we were in Columbia. And if I remember right, what the gentleman was talking about, his suggestion was, if you have the number of people that show up to speak warrants how much time they get. The more people, the less time, is what he suggested.
Yeah, he also said he gives them 5 minutes unless there's a bunch.
We also deal with 8 speakers, period. You know. My question is, so I think we understand that if they want more time, we can give them, say, more than 3. What happens if we give someone more than 3 that we want to listen to, and then we discriminate against somebody and don't give them more than 3 because we don't want to listen to them.
That is certainly the position that somebody who feels discriminated against would take. So you need to be judicious with granting additional time. And remember, this is just the time for them to give unmoderated feedback to you as the governing body. Nothing prevents them from coming in during the alderman's free and open airtime to talk to them. This comment period is not your redress of grievances with the government. Redress of grievances with the government is knocking on your door as elected official and saying, I'd like to have a meeting about this important issue. This is a part of it. People want to be heard. But remember, this is the business meeting of the governing body, and the right to speak doesn't exist here except to the extent you give it to them.
I say, we don't have to give it to them at all.
That's correct. Almost everybody does because people want to be able to come in here. My wife and son are at the Shawnee, Kansas one tonight, saying things I hope I don't regret later. But they're there to do that. So, but yes, it's important.
Bruce. So it kind of sounds like it's best to leave the time period for an individual meeting up to the wisdom of the mayor at that time. If there's 50 people in the audience, maybe he wants to set it at 2 minutes. If there's 2 people in the audience, maybe he's okay with 5 minutes.
And if that's okay with the board, that's fine with me.
You could, I'm sorry.
No, you could put 3 in here, but it, like you were saying, it's kind of up to our discretion on the topics, right?
You could also say, you could give them a 3-minute or something and say with another 2 minutes allowed at the discretion of the board and mayor, and then anything more than, I mean, nothing stops somebody from coming and asking to be put on the agenda for an important issue.
Right.
Like, for instance, when the chamber comes to talk about this issue, they didn't have to necessarily talk during public comment time. They just came if they didn't think, they would come for that if they didn't think you were putting it on the agenda or listening to them. An actual presentation, if you want somebody to come and talk to them, whether it's Boy Scouts about an Eagle project or, you know, the police department, you put them on the agenda and they get the time that they get. So this is kind of the fallback position to give people an opportunity to participate in government in a meaningful way. So you will hear things that you might not otherwise be aware of and let your constituents tell you those things. But the decision is, as you've said, entirely yours. You can grant as much or as little time. Just you need to be mindful about not creating an appearance of discrimination against anybody on viewpoint.
We want people. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of
I wish we had a problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
No, we got to let people speak.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like the 3-minute with a 2-minute contingency
I like that too.
on the mayor or the board.
Right. I like that.
Okay with that.
We can say the first time limit is 3 minutes.
No.
Maximum time limit is 5 minutes.
8.
Well, we'll have to write it down. We have that. Yeah, are we gonna do an ordinance out of this? Or
A resolution. I would also like to do one for the planning commission and the board of adjustment, so we're all on the same page. So there'll be individual books for each
We
board.
need to have it written down. That's why.
is there another point in these that we need to discuss?
That was my next question.
I'm sorry.
Is there another point in here that we need to discuss?
No, basically,
that we
these
haven't
two
been
are
really-
identical, except one's just a more longer written out version, explains a little bit more in detail, where the other one's just bullet points. And I would like for you to tell me which
I
one you would
think
like.
we've been pretty much doing all the rest of these.
You
right?
have, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and
That
it's
was my
just,
question.
yeah.
What's the driver behind this, so we know what the goal is, other than the discussion?
If there's anything you want to change.
If there's anything you want to change.
I don't have a time.
Adam Couch,
Yeah,
Okay.
Mayor, there was a 2-minute time limit.
was it adopted?
I don't know, that's what I'm saying, there might be something on the books from that.
Okay.
It had a 2-minute and it had a maximum for all.
Okay, I will
Yeah.
take a look at that. I appreciate that.
It might have just fallen off as
Yeah,
people change.
right,
I don't
absolutely.
remember that, but.
Donna,
One other item that, because it's in here, we talked about at our finance meeting, and Kathy brought up wondering if we might consider moving our meetings earlier than 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if we need to make a decision tonight.
we certainly can.
Maybe it's something we need to discuss, since it is,
Procedure for the board.
is this something we should put on the agenda, Karen? Or I'm just saying, is it?
Well, as far as voting on it, I wouldn't suggest voting on it tonight, because it's not on the agenda. I mean, this is on the agenda, but
Okay,
we'll add it to,
okay.
yeah, as a whole.
Recommendation on that.
Yeah. A recommendation is okay.
we have to put them on a different night, which wouldn't be a bad idea because we have a lot going on in our finance meeting. And Bruce is doing a fine job with that, asking questions. But we have to keep looking at the clock because it's like, whoa, we gotta get out of here. We're running into the Aldermen meeting. So I think it was a consensus that we could probably go with the finance meeting another night. But Carla doesn't work and in the city, and so she has a hard time getting here by 5:30 sometimes. So, that being finance meeting or Aldermen meeting. So, I don't know if we need to make it, Karen says we need to vote on this another time, but it might be worth thinking about or discussing since it's in here.
Think about it and get back to you.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like we're discussing.
That's what I was concerned about Carla,
I was,
because she has to come from downtown.
At least on that, but depending
Well,
on
they
the
said that
70,
the traffic would still be.
6 o'clock is the safest around.
But you're okay with the 6 o'clock meeting time for a board meeting?
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Karen, what's City Hall's thought on that with you specifically? Is this?
We are all good with that. Absolutely. Yes.
Well, we've had the discussion, let's move forward with the next board meeting.
Okay.
Let's vote on that.
And if there are, after reviewing, go home and review this. Wednesday, I'd like to get any comments, so just send me an email and I'll get a draft.
Department heads.
Yeah, that was another thing.
Are you, okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Earlier is not a problem.
Well, I know the sooner you can get in here, get out.
I was thinking maybe 1 or 2 of them.
3.
You bring lunch, I'll be
Carla
here.
cannot be here for those.
We're not talking about.
We did discuss it this morning at our staff
Right.
meeting, and
Oh, okay.
it was unanimous, yes, we would support an earlier meeting time.
Basically, because they get off work at 5 and then they don't have, then it's 7 o'clock before, you get here and it's 9 before they get home. So, that's right.
Yes.
That's basically it.
So,
It's a long day.
What about
It
our
is.
attorney?
He said 3.
You're gonna charge, in the means, we're not saying we're gonna start them earlier and make them stay later. So you're gonna pay the same for me, but not that you should care what I think, but earlier in the day is fine. I'd take the 1 o'clock meeting and my wife would remember who I am again, so.
I know.
Well, I don't think we should push it any later than 6.
no, we really can't.
6 is perfect.
Yeah.
One concern you haven't talked about yet is, and I know we don't have a huge community outpouring, but what does the community feel about that? If we move it to 6, there are other people that outside the community can't be here, should they desire to.
And it may open up an opportunity
But
for
that's
others.
one of.
It might.
True.
She's
So-
been here, she comes all the
So
time.
I think
We
we need
love
to,
it.
I think we need to take a little bit of time and talk to the people we talk to and make sure they're okay with it as well.
Okay, most people at 6 at our home.
I think a lot of them are as
You
well.
pushed it to 4 on Friday.
I would agree with that too.
I think it's fine to reach out, to discuss that, because we can all vote now when the time comes on the next board meeting.
So if we have any changes, get with Karen by Wednesday? Is
Yes,
that what-
please.
Is that what you're saying, Karen?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I could probably get this. I do cover 3 other meetings a week sometimes. So those weeks, I'm used to when I eat dinner. Let's bring us in.
Darren will bring you dinner.
All right,
Mhm.
so have anything about this to Karen by Wednesday?
Yes, please.
All right, any changes or any suggestions about this procedures by Wednesday? And I think the consensus of the board is that we'll vote on a change to the meeting time on the next board meeting.
6 o'clock meeting and 3 minutes talking.
Gotcha. Got it written down.
6 o'clock meeting and a 3-minute meeting.
And so ends the discussion. Next scheduled meeting is Monday, July 14th.
It's a big one.
7 p.m. right here. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Can I say before we make a motion that Karen has sent out, that we would like to take group photos on that day?
Yes.
So
Yes, please.
maybe Dress appropriately.
Yes.
Dress appropriately, Colin. Zing right back.
Wow.
What was
That's
that
for the-
website for ordinance?
That's for the Domler, or the encode.
That wasn't in there.
House permit.
And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor? 6-0, we are adjourned.
I can't sign
Those two.
reports, okay.
Those two are-